Hi, Emerald. I'm going to show you what happened in your flyer that's causing your signature line to get pushed down to the second page. It has to do with this line right here, this Junior's Wedding Bakery. Do you see how it looks like the top of that line is getting cut off? That has to do with line spacing. Now, in the assignment, we worked with paragraph spacing. And it's kind of weird because paragraph spacing and line spacing are kind of similar, but kind of not. So paragraph spacing, if I go to page layout, that's where I can set my paragraph spacing. And what that means is I am telling my spacing after or before lines to either increase or decrease the space. So on my Home tab, there's this little thing that looks like a backwards P. That's the paragraph. If I turn that on, it shows me where all of my paragraphs are in my document. And if I go to page layout, this is what the paragraph spacing is referring to. So everywhere I see a paragraph, I can increase or decrease that space. So what the book is saying is, for example, after the bulleted list, the paragraph spacing should be set to 12. So after desserts, I should set my spacing to 12. So watch what happens. When I click that, it's going to push this image down because I'm telling my spacing after desserts, I want it set to 12. So it pushes that image down a little bit. Now here, after Junior's Wedding Bakery, this spacing is supposed to be set to 0. So after Junior Wedding Bakery, my spacing should be set to 0. And because I'm decreasing the number, this line actually is going to move up. When I set this to 12, it pushed this image down. I'm going to do, after bakery, I'm going to set this to 0, so it's going to pull this line up. So now watch what happens. So that's set to 0, and did you see how my address pushed almost right underneath Junior's Wedding Bakery? So that's what paragraph spacing is. Line spacing is spacing between lines, and what that means is if I have individual lines, and this is where it gets kind of weird. When I do line spacing, it is going to increase or decrease the space between my lines, not just after the paragraph. So in this case, I wrote a little line out here for you to show you that I don't have a paragraph return here, because when I type my sentence, it just keeps going and my paragraph doesn't show up until I hit the enter key. So this is a paragraph return. This is what's called a soft return, and that's what happens within paragraphs. So when you keep typing and typing, you get a soft return. At the end of that paragraph, you hit the enter key and it gives you a hard return or a paragraph return. So this is what it means when we're talking about paragraph spacing and line spacing. My paragraph spacing comes after here. My line spacing comes in this whole entire paragraph. So if I change my line spacing here, it's going to change the space between every line. If I change my paragraph spacing, it's only going to change the spacing after the paragraph. So let me show you that quickly. From my page layout, under paragraph, I'm going to click this little menu button, and it's going to pop open my paragraph menu. And you can see here that there's spacing here. This is my paragraph spacing, and there's also line spacing. So now what happens when I change my line to double? It's going to change every line in this paragraph, not just after my paragraph setting or before my paragraph. Every line in this paragraph is going to change. So that's the difference between a paragraph and a line setting or spacing. So up here, what happened with your Junior Wedding Bakery is your line spacing got changed to just half a line. So Microsoft Word is looking at this, it's saying, oh, you have your line spacing set to multiple, but you only want half a line space between each one of your lines, and that is cutting off your text because you're telling it you only want half a line of space between your lines. So if I change this line spacing to single, watch what happens. It pops open my entire line there because now I'm telling it I don't want it at half a line, I want it at least a whole single line in there. So that takes care of that. Okay, so now we have our line spacing set to single here. We have our paragraph spacing right here set to 0, but we still have our signature line down at the bottom here. And that's because somewhere in here, when this got changed, it created some kind of weird spacing issue. So now I just have to go to, after the word bakery, I just have to hit the delete key and see how it popped my signature line back on the page. Now I just have to hit the enter key and it puts a paragraph in there. Again, my paragraph is still set to 0, so we're good there. I have my line up here. Now the only other thing we have to do is set our signature line to be centered. So we're going to go to the Home tab, put the cursor in front of Call, and hit the Center Align icon, and that takes care of that. So that's kind of a convoluted explanation, and I hope it helps you, but that is where the issue is down here. We just had to get rid of some funky formatting issue stuff, so that should take care of that. I'm going to go back to the Home tab. I'm going to hit this little paragraph icon, and that's going to turn the paragraphs off, and now your document's back to normal.